What's up, guys? How's it going? Good. Jose, let's try that again. How are you? Good. Good? Better, good. Man, I am thrilled to be with you guys today. My name is Tyler Sexton, and it is a privilege to get to be with you guys on this incredible event. You guys had a great turnout. And I get to tell you a little bit about my story. I've been with you guys a couple times. Hopefully some of you guys like what you hear now. Two separate lectures completely. One's on hyperbaric medicine this afternoon, and today, or now, is really a moment to encourage you, right? So I am a pediatric hospitalist. I'm also a boarded hyperbaric medicine physician and wound care doctor for adults and pediatrics. I'm also a general pediatrician, so I'm triple boarded. You know what? All that stuff is like a tail on a pig. It has nothing to do with the quality of bacon, right? So what's interesting is my story is a little bit unique, and I get to share with you a piece of my story. And it all started, I was born 28 weeks. Both my lungs collapsed at birth. They told my parents that they would keep my body warm so they could hold me for the first and last time before they buried me. They said that if I did survive, that I would never walk, never talk, and that I would probably spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Matter of fact, they told my parents that they should just let Tyler die because he's not going to do anything. And if he does, he may just amount to sitting there on the couch, sharpening pencils for a living. Don't waste your time with him. When I got older, I still couldn't sit up. Obviously, there was something very wrong. And at 18 months old, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. I'm a spastic diaplegic, being 28 weeks. You guys might know, depending on where you are in your studies. I know we have a broad range, is that that's the most common cause of premature brain injury, or anoxic brain injury, would be spastic diaplegia, or spastic cerebral palsy. And so my entire life, I've heard, no, it can't be done. You'll never do this, you'll never do that. And I hope today, in a piece of this story and open up to questions, that I encourage you to teach you guys one thing, that if you live by everybody else's approval, you will die by their rejection, right? So for me, my journey continued. Got a little older. Still couldn't sit up, got an MRI, was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, like I said. Then I, around 4 years old, always knew I wanted to be a doctor. Got made fun of every day that I was in school. Called crippled kid, called penguin, called all these different things. And it was terrible. Matter of fact, it got so bad, one time I was in elementary school, and I was with the PE teachers. And there was a substitute PE teacher, and there were thousands of kids around in my elementary school, and I was doing jumping jacks, and my clumsy attempt at jumping jacks, the PE teacher shouted out, "Hey kid, you're in 4th grade, that's the best you can do, quit clowning around." Well, that was the best that I could do. So I went home and I told my mom I didn't want to be me anymore. So she took me into my room and she started throwing everything out of my room. I'm talking my bed sheets, my pictures, my Nintendo. Who doesn't love a Nintendo, right? I mean, come on. So she threw everything out. She said, "What can't I take away from you?" I started to cry bitterly. I said, I don't know what you can't take away." She kept throwing everything. I mean, nothing was on the walls. Just the mattress. She said, "What can't I take away from you?" I said, "I don't know. You've taken everything from me. I have no idea what you can not take from me." She said, "I can't take the spirit that God gave you and that you're alive and you're made for a purpose." And at that time, that's really all I needed in terms of my legs. But I got older. Went off to middle school, went off to high school, went off to college. Was told I'll never be a doctor. Matter of fact, got so bad in college, I thought college was going to be easy because everybody's crazy in college. You can sit naked, half naked in the corner, seek enlightenment, do whatever you're doing. I'm not knocking any of that stuff, but I thought I'd just walk a little funny, right? I thought that'd be all right. Got made fun of every day. Matter of fact, what you guys probably don't know, and the only reason I don't have him, is I use a service dog because I've broken almost every bone in my body from falling. And the only reason I don't have him is just because he got a little sick before coming, and also just with the international flights and things like that, I didn't know how it was going to be received. But you know that guide dog? I saw a couple guide dogs running around here, right? So I have a service dog, a black lab that keeps me from falling. Haven't broken a bone since I've fallen, or since I've had the dog, excuse me. Now, when I went off to college, it was a trip because, every day I was on that college campus, I got made fun of. And I used a Segway, you know that thing everybody does a tour on, or the thing in my case that President Bush fell off of years ago. I don't know if you guys know that, probably an older reference, but he took a plunder. But that was my, as much as as cool as House makes it look, you guys know House, of course, the TV show, right? Who doesn't know House? As cool as House makes it look to be using a cane or those automatic walkers, I worked so hard to learn how to walk that I didn't want to get back in a wheelchair. Well, it got so bad that I would just put on sunglasses and pretend that I was blind because nobody would mess with the blind guy. And of course, I had my service dog, so when you put your sunglasses on, everybody thought, of course, I was blind. Of course, they'd freak out when I got on my Segway and didn't hit anybody as I drove away. But when I went off to college, so I sat in front of an advisor, right? And I told her, I said, I'd like to be a doctor. She said, oh no, you'll never be a doctor. We're gonna have to choose a different career. I said, well, I'm gonna have to choose a different advisor. So I found another one. And I said, I wanna be a doctor. He said, well, that'll work, but we probably need to pick up a backup plan because, that's probably not gonna work out for you. And so I said, I need another advisor. And so I found a third one. I said, listen, I know I'm a young, dumb 18-year-old kid, and I just wanna tell you something. I'd like to be a doctor. And she said, okay. She mapped it out for me. Little did I know, as you guys sit here, what that was gonna take. So I got good grades, got competitive grades, did really well. Sat in front of a few people that I wanted to go through in the US, got rejected because of my disability. Said, you will never be a doctor because they won't come to you. You can forget that dream. You'll be the last person I want to walk down my halls because of your disability. And I want to encourage you guys something. I stand here in awe of you before I continue a piece of my story. Truly touched that you guys are all here going through it. I've been where you're at, right? Went through residency, went through medical school. I know how sometimes it can feel daunting. It can feel like you've lost the reason of what we're doing. And the challenge that I have to you is to remember this, that 10% of life is what happens to you and 90% is how you react to it. That we're all handicapped. Mine, the world can see, but you're all struggling with something. You all wish there was something we could change or whatnot. And I encourage you, if we sat everybody up right now and I started quizzing you, what's the cause of osteomyelitis, or what's the most common cause? Everybody's like, oh, what is it? And the answer is staph. Just a little nugget for you, right? Staph. Oh, geez. Now, I almost gave the answer away. What if you have sickle cell? Salmonella, most likely, right? You guys. So anyway, that's not what this lecture's about, so don't worry. No quiz. Whew. My point is that we all know what we're supposed to say, right? But how you say it, that's what matters. And I hope through a piece of my story or through these stories that I tell you that I can encourage you on two things, is to realize two things, is that someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Because if I listened to everybody or what they said to me, I wouldn't be standing in front of you as a doctor. You know what? And what's ironic is, as a pediatrician, I get to have a little fun. I do adults too with the wounds and diabetes. And I used to joke that as an adult, if you didn't drink or smoke and if you ate right, we'd be out of a job. Because that's 90% what we deal with, right? With diabetes and all those things. But with kids, I get to have a lot of fun. Wear my superhero t-shirts, have a good time with them. But what's ironic is that through my story, being able to say that I know how you feel and mean it, that's the big thing. And I just got to tell you this, for me, and it is a faith for me, where I've been, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for my faith in God. And I've learned that I'd rather walk with a limp in Christ than with a strut in the world. That I'm not perfect, that I'm not special, but that we are unique. And that I want to encourage you guys that no matter what you guys are going through, to be encouraged to chase your dreams, that there is hope. I don't know, for those of you that are in the audience that have been dealing with struggles in your own lives, or you're juggling, I met somebody running the convention, just got married, trying to juggle getting married and doing school and trying to be a doctor, being a good husband or wife. I mean, it's hard juggle. And then to add your preceptors or your professors telling you what you need to be or how you need to be. If I listen to him saying, Tyler, you can't do that as a doctor. You can't keep up. You're not going to be able to round with us. You can't even walk straight. Literally, my own professors called me. I was in residency doing interviews. And I walked in, I had 8 interviews for residency, and one of the interviewees, one of the doctors, looked at me and she said, what am I going to do with this? And she motioned to all of me, and I was sent home. I couldn't even interview, which you're not supposed to be able to do, right? Well, what's ironic is, anybody ever seen The Good Doctor? You know the show? Maybe not. You guys know it? Right? So I'm not doing this to self-promote because I absolutely hate that, but my mother and I wrote a book called God Bless These Little Legs. And that story, The Good Doctor, I'm going to tell you a couple stories where I had the privilege of being on ABC's 2020. I've been doing motivational speaking a long time. I get to share some of my stories. But I want to share with you, anybody ever seen the episode where Sean's talking to his brother and he carries that plastic scalpel and he puts it in his pocket, right? Keep that story in mind. I'm going to tell you where that story kind of came from, where it kind of started. So when I was younger, though, I digress a little bit. When I was younger, I came home one day and I asked my mom what was wrong with my legs. And she knew this question was coming, And so she said, well, why don't you go ahead and go to take a nap, and when you wake up, I'll tell you what happened. And so I went to sleep, and I had all my, since I had to combat crawl everywhere, and I was real OCD, real anal, so I had all my toys lined up on the fireplace of the fireplace hearth, and made sure everything was there. Well, she took Bert, my favorite character, and she cut both of his arms off with a butcher knife. Don't worry, she's not crazy. It gets better in a second. Or maybe she is, which is a good thing too. So she took Bert and she cut his arms off with a butcher knife. And she placed him back on the hearth of the fireplace with the rest of the Sesame Street gang. And I woke up and I said immediately, oh my goodness, what happened to Bert's arms? And she said when I was asleep that Bert was in an accident, that the world would label him as handicapped. But that doesn't mean he can't be Ernie's best friend, that he can't hang out with the Sesame Street gang and all those things. And at that point, all I said to my mom was, like my legs. She said, like your legs. That's all I needed. I was into that. Of course, again, I fast forward for you. When I got older, about 20 years after that, my trek to becoming a doctor started to become a reality. And my mom pulled out Bert from a cabinet that she had kept for almost 20 years. And she said, I want you to make me a promise. She said, I want you to be known as the doctor that carries Bert in his pocket. So that when the kids come in or the people come in, they have no hope, that you could pull this out and that you could tell them that they have a life worth living, that their story is something special, right? And so it's an interesting thing. And I know, the big thing for this, like I said, we're going to go into academics with me later. Hopefully you guys, I can see some of you guys for hyperbaric medicine, learning different applications for hyperbaric medicine, 14 different applications. I teach that. I'm the vice president of the American College of Hyperbaric Medicine, like I said. I've worked for hospitals. I've worked for Johns Hopkins. I'm the chair of pediatrics for a couple hospitals. All that stuff means nothing, right? Because how we treat somebody, that's the difference. And the funny thing is for me is I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like my art, and there's nothing wrong with being a nerd, right? We're all nerds in the room to some degree. That's why we're here, right? That's a beautiful thing. But I'm a big fan of the mosaic. You guys know what a mosaic is. I'm really talking about more of the contemporary stuff, but any mosaic will work, pebbles and things like that. But if you look at mosaics in terms of pictures, you look at a mosaic, and you look at it from far away, and it looks pretty uniform. But you look up close, and there's random photos. You wonder, what's that doing there? That doesn't look like it goes there. And I've learned one thing, that the very thing that defines me, the cerebral palsy, if you took that away, I wouldn't be standing in front of you as the doctor that I am today. I've learned to trust in something greater. I look at my patients and say, I know how you feel and mean it. I think that medical schools across the world, I speak all over, I think we've got it wrong. At least it's changing some, especially in your generation. I'm not that much older than you guys. I hate when somebody said, in my day, I used to have residency for 37 hours while you guys only worked for 8. I hated that, So I'm not saying that to you guys. But my point is that they used to talk about countertransference and transference. It was a shame to laugh, cry, and talk to your patients. Well, I think that's a joke. I think that's a shame. I want you to think about that mosaic, that the random things, if you took cerebral palsy, if you pan back off of a mosaic, and you look back at those random photos and you don't know why they fit, when you pull back and you look at that full picture, it's a perfect picture. So I want to challenge you for the very thing that I thought was going to be my very handicapped, or the very thing is where it was a tragedy that got turned into a triumph. And I want to encourage you again, and I'll say it again, that if you live by everybody else's approval, you will die by their rejection. And again, remember, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity, right? You want to find the most judgmental people in the world? Go to church or go to medical school, right? Can you say that? Yes, I can, because I actually became a doctor. I hope you guys like me by the end of this lecture. My point is we're pretending that there's not some people you're sitting next to, you're like, I wouldn't let him operate on me. I'm out on that. Or you guys, don't lie to me. You know there's people you like or don't like, right? Come on, let's be real. My point is, guys, is that it is a privilege to do what we do. We're not special. We were just dumb enough to keep studying, right? That's the bottom line. And I think it's so important to realize that our whole makeup and what we're all about, that's what makes you a good physician. Not prideful, not entitled, but to be able to look at somebody and say, I know how you feel, and mean it. And you never know in terms of the chase of dreams. I'm going to share one more story, and I'm going to be quiet and answer some questions and give the floor to you, and hopefully we can talk a little bit more. But I want to encourage you guys to learn to chase your dreams. If you guys could see yourselves the way I do, as blessed and highly favored, that you're meant for a purpose, you guys can change your life. That you are special, that if I listened to anybody, I wouldn't be standing here today, and that's the whole point. You're going to hear the no's. You're going to hear, the grades didn't measure up. You're not going to match where you want to match. I know that our systems are a little different, right? Because you guys get pre-matched and things like that. So I know that it's a little bit off in terms of that deal. But the whole cycle is still the same. You're going to have a lot of advisors, a lot of doctors telling you what they think that you should be, or how they think it should be done, right? And then you're sitting there like, well, if they say it can't be done, it must be true. Guys, I stand here in front of you as the person that said it can't be done, and I stand here in front of you having the privilege of being sent out here to talk to Australia, which is a privilege, right? So to tell you and to encourage you about chasing your dreams, I want to illustrate, and I will close with this story. When I was 4 years old, it's kind of like the ripple effect, like pebbles in a pond. You never know who you're going to impact just with a high five or a hug, right? That's really what it's about. Being that we're all handicapped, we all have something we can give to somebody, all that we wish we could do. Well, I had a physical therapist named Michelle Larson, and she was one of those people that you don't realize the ripple effect that happens down the road. Well, my mom is a real helicopter mom. I call her my little sweet potato. I don't know why. I just love her to death. But she's real helicopter right over me, make sure I don't hurt anything, don't break a bone, all those things. She saw Tyler go through all the surgeries. I used to know my mom was there before I'd finished this story because her tears, when I would wake up from surgery, would fall on my face after all the surgeries that I had. So she and I are very, very close. But my physical therapist said, hey, if I could teach Tyler how to pick up an object and bend over and pick it up, would you let him go to the local park in Florida to be with the kids for Easter? And my mom said, yeah, if you can teach Tyler to do that, sure, I'll let him go. But you got to remember, having cerebral palsy, learning how to bend over or sit in the toilet and not fall over, and learn how to wipe myself and not fall over was a small miracle. Or learn how to use my body and bend over and pick that up. So my physical therapist tied a basket. She bribed me with some juicy fruit, and I learned how to pick up an object and put it in a basket. So my mom took me and my sister, I have a younger sister, to North City Park in Florida, and it's Easter, so you have to all dress alike, right? You have to look all cute in your white clothes on Easter, right? And there's thousands of kids in this field. And there's thousands of kids lined up, and the gun went off. And all the kids went running, and I was left behind. See, and then my mom, she started to cry, and she said, see, this is exactly why I don't let Tyler go out and do anything. This is exactly why we shouldn't be out here. And I told Michelle that he was going to break his heart. He was going to be a failure. This crippled boy is going to go home and he's going to have no eggs. And her eyes were full of angry tears, and she walked over to apologize for bringing me. And she looked down at me with tears in her eyes, and my basket was overflowing with eggs. She said, oh my goodness, how in the world is your basket overflowing with eggs? I said, the kids are running so fast, their eggs are popping out of the baskets. I'm bending over and picking them up, putting them in mine. Right? And at that point, it's clear as day, and it's been a truth that has transcended my entire relationships, my entire professional career, is that I have learned that if we learn to slow down, to learn to pick up the small blessings, to not try to be first, not try to be the best. You guys are all trying to do the same thing. You just want to be a doctor, right? Some of you guys sitting here just started medical school, and you're like, I just hope I can be one. Some of you guys are trying to graduate, and you don't know what you're going to do, right? Some of you guys know exactly what you're going to do. You got your whole life planned out, and I pray and hope that happens for you. But the point is it might not. And are you going to let your circumstances define your attitude? No, I hope not. I hope you realize that your very circumstances, the very test, will be your testimony. And to not be ashamed of it either, because I happily stand in front of you and say that I have brain damage. I'm crazy. That's why you have to listen to me, because half my brain's been damaged because of CP, right? So the whole point is that's okay. And that our very weakness ends up to be our greatest strength. And so I hope that encourages you. So with that, just because they got me on a timer and I don't want to get buzzed off the stage, I want to open it up to you guys and say, one, thank you. I hope I see some of you guys for more academics in our breakouts. Learn about hyperbaric medicine, decompression sickness, diabetes, show some nasty wounds, and show you how that 80% of all those nasty wounds should not be cut off. They should go to a hyperbaric or wound specialist, that we can save that 80% of the time with literature and with hyperbaric medicine. So hopefully that can entice you, and we see some of you guys otherwise. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you for the privilege of lending me your ears. And if you guys have any questions, or if I can ever serve you, you just let me know. So thank you guys so much.
We've got a lot of questions coming through the app. So the first question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received, how ironic, because the best piece of, we didn't even plan this. That is awesome.
Amazing.
The best piece of advice is this right here. It changed my life. He is crazy. Wait, this gets better. Watch. I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine you guys ordered a pizza. And the pizza guy comes to your house, and he doesn't have the pizza. He's just got the pizza. He doesn't have the box. He's just got the pizza, and he's holding it in his hand. And I'm a big meat guy, so the cheese is rolling down his greasy, nasty hand, and the meat's falling out. You don't know where the hand has been, you know what I'm saying? Come on. So he's got his pizza there, and he comes up, and what's the first question you ask him? Where is the box? Right? You were expecting the product to come in a box. You were expecting the pizza to come in a vessel. You know what's ironic is this little box, or imagine it's a pizza box. Obviously it's not, but say it was a pizza box, right? The pizza box itself is of no value. This is what, 25 cents to make, if that, right? No value at all, nothing, thrown away. But what's inside is what matters. And guys, the one thing I learned, the one thing that was the best advice I ever got is imagine that we're all pizza boxes. And let me take it two ways. Because one way is I want you to look at your patients. Because I know we get jaded and we think, you know what, he's just a crack addict. Doesn't matter. Or, in my case, he's just a kid with CP. Another brain damaged kid we're saving in the NICU. I can't believe why we do this. He's just going to be trached. He ain't going to live his life. There's no quality of life. Let him die. It's better that way. Now, we're not here to talk about life and death or those kind of things, all right? There are moments when I do believe, without a doubt, it's better to let them go than to have them live a life of supportive care, all right? But what I am telling you is that sometimes when we lose value in others, that's when we fail, right? And there's two things. One, I want you to encourage you to look at every one of your patients as a pizza box. Encourage you to open that box up, give it a sniff, take a piece of that pizza and take a bite, right? Advertising. Wait till you look at your patients that way. Take a bite of that wound. No, that they are a piece of pizza, that they are special. And on the other side, I want you to look at this. We're all pizza boxes. If you look at my box is scarred. If I took my shirt off, I'd have scars on the front of my body, chest tube scars on my back. I have a central dorsal rhizotomy that got me walking. My scar is over 15 inches long. My entire body is a scar. Of course, I've used scars and wounds. That's why I became a wound care doctor, right? The difference is wounds are nasty. Wounds are ugly. They hurt. They don't want to talk about it. They weep. They bleed. But when they heal, they become scars, and they're part of our story. My pizza box is disgusting looking, if you look at it. Now, I'm okay with myself, don't get me wrong. All right, but it's like, oh, no, he's not an ugly pizza box. He's a cute one. Thank you. And I'm married and have a 3-year-old daughter. Woo! Right? So I just wanted to give you that. So it's exciting stuff. Met my wife in medical school, so and she's pediatric intensive care, so exciting stuff. But my point is this, is that if you didn't take a chance to look at my pizza box, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today. Right? So my greatest advice, or the greatest thing I ever received, is look at everybody as pizza boxes. So I leave that with you.
It's really beautiful. The next question
is,
how can we as medical students be better allies to our peers and colleagues who face discrimination?
That's a good question. I think we've done it wrong. I think that if I'll challenge you again with this, being a pediatrician, right? If I ask you who Clark Kent was, you would say?
Superman.
And Bruce Wayne? And Barry Allen? Just testing you. The Flash. Oh, it gets a little quieter, but good for you. Anyway, we're not going to talk about our superheroes. My point is this, is that every day we live, we have a chance to impact somebody's life. And the one thing that I have learned is that sometimes I was actually made fun of and mistreated, truly, just vindictively. There's no doubt. But most of the time, it was just out of fear or uncomfortable because nobody wants to bring something up. Like for me, it's like, well, don't invite Tyler to the movies because it's too hard for him to walk up down the stairs. Matter of fact, I digress. I'm gonna answer your question. I had my service dog going, right, one time to the movies. I take him everywhere with me. We're walking up the stairs, and I was with my friends, and one of these women yelled at me and said, "Why would you bring a blind guy to the movie? He can't even see it." So I said, well, my dog's been asking to see it all week, so I thought The point is that I encourage you guys, how do you face or deal with discrimination? Walk right up to it in the face. It is not a shock that I walk funny. It is not a shock that I'm different. What makes you sad is the fact that you're afraid to engage me. That there's more there's more blessings you're gonna get from people, from your patients, if you're just willing to say, hey, you know what, we know we're different, there it is. So that's one thing in terms of that, is to try to face it, is just step out there and go with it. So.
Have you ever faced discrimination from patients?
Ironically, a few. A lot of people used to think that I would all the time, but ironically the answer is no. Very rarely. So I'll walk in with my service dog, and it's funny because everybody will think that I'm blind, and then I'll look at the otoscope, and it's like, how does the blind guy see your ears, right? Right? So I haven't, though, because one thing I've learned is they ask for me. 60% of my entire practice is special needs, because I'm the doctor with cerebral palsy. Right? So when I can look at these patients and say, I know how you feel. We're all, like I said, we're all handicapped, but I make this up. There's no such thing as this disease. Golden toe syndrome, there's no such thing, okay? But I gotta look that one up. My point is patients could suffer from golden toe syndrome or cancer, right? Sometimes that person has just stubbed their toe. That's the worst thing they have to deal with, and thank God for that. And sometimes it's cancer or whatever it is, right? But I've learned that my story with my patients is able to transcend that piece. And so ironically, yeah, very few, but most of the time they ask for me. Most of the time my disability is the very thing that gives me credibility. And that's the one thing I want to realize. Your very weakness is your greatest strength. And I think we've done it wrong in medical school because we are not allowed to show weakness. All right? Having fun and laughing with your patients. I wear a superhero t-shirt every day that I go to work. I never wear a white coat. I don't begrudge somebody who does. I don't. Just because of what I believe and also because I'm a pediatrician. But there's a couple reasons there that we don't have time for. But I just don't do it, right? It's neat because these kids, they were my greatest reason for knowing that I was supposed to do this, because I would look at these kids and they didn't care that I walked funny. They didn't care. Matter of fact, I will never forget, and then I'll answer one more question. I will never forget this. I was in residency and we had a kid that had cancer, a little girl. She's left us now, she died. And I will never forget, I went in, and you know how it goes where you go into residency and you're rounding before everybody, and then your attendings take 8 hours, and then they finally show up and you get to do all their work for you, and then they sign it, right? That's where I'm at now. I have people do my work for me. It's sweet. No, I'm kidding. But that's what you guys are getting into. But my point is so I went in and I rounded on my patient, right? And she was undergoing chemotherapy. She had rhabdomyosarcoma. And she was 13 years old. And she went in and she said, she had this rash on her face. And she goes, I have school pictures this week. Will the rash be gone? And I was talking to her. You know, I waited for my doctor and I gave checkout. You know, labs were fine, yada, 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 did the whole thing. Walked in. I said, the big thing she cares about is she has a rash on her face. That's her complaint today. And I was just talking to her because she has school pictures. Doctor walked in, and great guy, love him to death. Walked in, started talking about labs, started talking about the cancer. Do you not think she doesn't know she already has cancer? He never once addressed the fact that she had a rash. And the only thing she cared about was looking pretty for her school pictures. Guys, if we miss that, then we have failed. And the only reason I care so much about it, the only thing that makes me mad, is you can be dumb. When you go to residency, you are dumb. You know nothing. You're like, I don't know how these people, I don't know how we know what we do. You can be dumb and be taught. I was dumb and taught. I'm still dumb, right? We learn every day. When you're prideful and dumb, I will kill you, right? Pride is the burden of a foolish person. That is where we fail, right? And when we forget to care about people, that's the mistake.
Tyler, unfortunately we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. He's joined us all the way from America, flown through London and Singapore.
Thank you, guys.
A huge round of applause. He'll be in the breakout in M1 after this, I think. Yep. Small token of appreciation.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for that.